Mischief Makers is a 1997 game developed by Treasure and released by Enix on the Nintendo 64. While there is some debate among gamers as to what kind of game this is, I find myself settling on the 2.5D puzzle platforming game type. Players control Marina, a robotic maid to Professor Theo, and... wait, sorry, did I simply just call her a robotic maid? Let me be more clear, you play as Ultra Intergalactic Cybot Marina Lightyears. Yeah. Anyway, before you start thinking this game is going to be Mighty Number 9 levels of ripoff, Mischief Makers really stands on its own. Marina has booster jetpacks and basically does little more than grab and throw enemies throughout the game. I find it to be more puzzle-like than action because most enemies are simply defeated by throwing them enough times when you encounter them at all. Most of the time, it's a matter of finding your way through the level by incorporating your grab and shake mechanic in different ways. There are other maneuvers like a slide and digging, but for the most part, you shake your way through the levels. There are times you control other characters with other mechanics, but they aren't how you'll spend the majority of the game. Nearly all of the levels in the game can be beat in a minute or two, which keeps the game fast-paced and easily snackable. You can explore for more gems, and the more yellow gems you have at the end of the game, the better the alternate ending you will receive. But you can also push through the game in relatively short time if all you want to do is reach the end of a level. Mischief Makers graphics are a standout quality of this title when looking back at it today. Typically the game runs at 60 FPS, and I feel bad that the capture card I was using at the time of recording this footage clipped me to 30 frames per second. The game truly runs at a silky smooth pace, and the 3D models are actually just 2D sprites interacting with what is mostly a 2D flat plane. Occasionally there are background threats, and even part of the game's intro uses interesting 3D scaling effects on what's basically a 2D backdrop. But all in all, the game has a beautiful style of graphics. Some levels take full advantage of the power of the Nintendo 64, proving that Treasure was really willing to take the time to learn how to develop things properly on Nintendo's new system. While at the time, games were pushing for more and more three-dimensional models and worlds, this game has a look that remains fairly timeless and has aged far better than many games from that generation. The music is good, there's no denying that, but even after hours and even days of playing, I honestly can't say that I have a single song stuck in my head. I look at that as a positive in one way, but also a negative in another. Personally, finding nothing memorable about the music is a little saddening, considering how much I did tend to enjoy it in the game. The sound effects fit well with the game, and I actually love this style of almost muted sound. Nothing is ear-piercing or grating in any way, and the sounds are almost subdued and pushed into the background, so as to not concern or distract the player. And the moment of truth. Does Mischief Makers have any story going for it? Well, if you were a child stuck in the car, waiting to play the game, you would crack open the instruction manual, and here's the world you would find. Marina and Prof. Theo have finally arrived on planet Clancer. The planet has been sending an SOS signal, so it might not be too safe to be here. Therefore, Marina has decided to go out and scout out the planet, and get more familiar with the area. I'm bored. The Prof, who was left in the spaceship, is very bored. He was trying to find something to kill the time, when suddenly, ding-dong, doorbell rings. Something enters the Prof's room. The Prof thought that these strange creatures were the welcoming wagon. What the heck? A large group of Clancers suddenly rushed into the room and started going totally wild. The Prof was quite confused, and the next thing he knew, he'd been kidnapped. Marina, who's been out scouting, hears a familiar voice. Marina, help me! Prof! Marina hurried to where the voice was coming from, and got there in time to see the Prof being kidnapped by the group of Clancers. Who are these creatures? Why would they want to kidnap the Prof? And so begins Marina's adventure. Okay, fairly straightforward, and if you were to rely on the beginning of the game, it seems pretty much identical. Marina the robot was out scouting, her creator, Professor Theo, got kidnapped, and she needs to go rescue him. But here's the thing. When you look at the pages before the story in the instruction booklet, it introduces other characters. Characters that seem to go beyond this simple plot to kidnap your professor. Mischief Makers is comprised of 5 worlds, each one filled with nearly a dozen levels. It's at the end of World 2 that the in-game story takes a twist and finally introduces those characters seen in the instruction manual and even in the game's intro cutscene. I won't go beyond that, but I hope there's enough incentive there to keep players going, because this is the kind of game that has much more to it than a player might think at first glance. When I was younger, I dismissed Mischief Makers because the graphics weren't as cool as other Nintendo 64 titles at the time. The pre-rendered sprites were nice, but not what I wanted as a kid. The gameplay was more puzzle solving, but to me it was just a bit too abstract. The game had a learning curve I wasn't patient enough to work through, because it takes one simple shake mechanic and uses it in many different ways. But when I first saw this end of World 2 cutscene, I knew there was more to this game than I first suspected, and I suddenly was re-energized, just as I hope others out there might be now. I hope I've made a little mischief of my own and inspired others to give a shake to our story so far. Hey everybody, thanks for watching episode number 94 of Our Story So Far TV. I want to give a big shout out to my friend Matt. He's the one you see playing in most of the footage recorded here, and we actually recorded this, oh my gosh, 2 years ago? I just had the footage sitting around for a while, finally picked up the manual for the game, and thought it might make a good episode. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, feel free to give it a thumbs down, but please tell me why in the comments. I'm always available for more discussion on Twitter, @NewAngel, that's Nuangel. If you really enjoyed it, please share the link with someone else, and don't forget there's nearly 100 episodes here on YouTube to watch. And I'll have a new episode next Friday. Until next time, take care of yourself.